Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at 5 guitar lick ideas that can dramatically improve the way that you sound when you're improvising. We're going to be doing a lot more than just 5. We're going to actually break down the entire lead that I played, but I've kind of summarized 5 little points in that solo that happen that are kind of creative sounding or different, little out-of-the-box sounds. And these are things that I use all the time when I'm improvising a lead. I've called them out in other lessons, but I thought it'd be great to sort of summarize them and put them into one lesson. And the real value add here is not to just memorize how to play a solo. There's really no value in that at all, in my opinion. The value is understanding why the licks work the way they do so that you can take these and steal them and use them in your own thing when you're improvising. And it doesn't matter what style of music you're playing. Once you understand what's going on, theoretically, you can start using them in your own stuff, in any key, any style. So I've got this lesson split into 2 parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of the lead, break it down. If you'd like to join us for part 2, where we'll go over the second half, download the tablature for everything, download the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos. You can get all of those extra lesson materials to help you practice what we're going to talk through by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP581. Okay, so this song is pretty much a 12-bar blues in the key of A. And the 3 chords we're going to be using are, it's a 1-4-5 chord progression. So our 1 chord is an A, our 4 chord is a D, and our 5 chord is an E. A, D, and E. Those are the chords we're going to be reacting to or playing a lead over. So the first thing that I play is this kind of Albert King kind of lick that's right out of the minor pentatonic scale. So not every one of the licks we're going to be playing here are these 5 big breakthroughs. A lot of this is going to be minor pentatonic scale stuff as filler. But let me play that first lick, and then we'll break it down. We'll talk about how to do it. All right, so that lick starts up here on the 10th fret, 1st string, with a full bend like this. And notice I don't release the bend. It's not like this. You don't hear the release. It goes up and then it stops. And I do that with my right hand. I mute the strings with my right hand. It's kind of an Albert King move. To me, this first little run here, first little lick, sounds like something Albert would do. And then, so we do a hammer-on. After we do that bend, we're going to do a hammer-on between the 8th fret and the 10th fret on the 1st string. And then another Albert King-ism that's between, it starts on the 1st string with a downstroke, and then you do an upstroke on the 10th fret 2nd string. So it's like this. So let's put that together. We have. Now, the timing of this is important. I should mention that. This first note comes in on the 2. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. The second little thing, this 10th fret 1st string, comes in on the 4. So it's on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, another Albert King kind of thing. That's the 8th fret, strings 1 and 2. I hit that and then just slide it down. It's something you can easily integrate into your playing. And all of this that we're doing here is the A minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. So if you're thinking, you're wondering about which pattern we're playing out of, it's pattern 2. This would also be the D shape from the cage system if you're thinking caged. But that's where all this is coming from. All right, so after that, we're going to stay in the A minor pentatonic scale, and we're going to go down into pattern 1. That's sort of our favorite place to go, right? Home base. That's the A minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. And so this next lick is made up of a few things. I was going to actually include this as one of the 5 because there's some kind of cool stuff in here, but we're not to the 5 cool licks yet. But check this out. Now that's pretty cool, and it's actually very easy to do. So it starts with a 3-note run like this. And I use this all the time, easy to do, because what we're doing is we're barring the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, and then you start with a downstroke on the 2nd string, and you do a hammer-on. I use my ring finger up here up to the 8th fret 2nd string, and then an upstroke on the first string. Now remember where we're at. We're in minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. You can see those notes there. And those are the first 3 notes. And you can take those 3 notes and string them together in a lick. And get kind of a fast little run sometimes, a great little filler. So, you know, just sort of keep that in mind. Now after that, we're gonna do 4 notes like this. And those are right down the A minor pentatonic scale, just walking right down. 8th fret down to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then we go 7, 5. So let's put the 2 together. Now after that, we have 4 more notes. It starts with a bend here on the 7th fret, 3rd string. So it's a bend on the 7th fret, 4th string, then we go 7, 5, without the 7 without the bend. And then we come down to the 7th fret, 4th string. So that all started on the 3rd string. And then we go down to the 4th string. So let's put it together then. We've got... Now after that, there's one more little 3-note run that goes... So that's also happening on the 5th fret, like the first time. This time we're going to be on strings 3 and 2 instead of 2 and 1. So we're going to start. We're going to bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret. We're going to start with a downstroke, just like we did before, on the 3rd string. And this time I'm going to do a hammer onto the 7th fret, and then do an upstroke on the 5th fret, 2nd string. So it's like this. And then we go back to the 5th fret, 3rd string, with a little bit of a pull there, just to pull that sharp. And that happens all the time in the blues. Anytime you're dealing with the 3rd interval of a chord, that's the 3rd interval of your major chord, you go down and flat the 3rd and kind of bend towards the major 3rd. You just hear that in the blues all the time. Right? That's a sound you're probably familiar with. It happens up here as well, so just an octave higher. Okay, so all of that was the precursor. Now here's lick idea number 1, which is a diminished scale run. That's the diminished scale. And it's just a few notes there, but it really pulls your ear in kind of an unpredictable way. It just sounds very out of the box. If you like that sound, you're gonna love this, because it's, once you can see it and know how to apply it, you'll be able to do this anytime you want to use it. Now, the thing with a diminished scale is it fits over a diminished chord, right? So those are the notes that would fit into a diminished chord. There was no diminished chord there. If you listen to the jam track, it's just A major, D major. But what happens is there is a transition chord. If I wanted to, before I get to the 4 chord, when I'm playing the 1 chord, when I'm playing the 1 chord in a blues, right? Before you get to the 4 chord, which is your D, you have a transition chord. And so you take whatever your 1 chord is and you sharp it and play its diminished 7 chord. So in this case, if we were going from the A to the D, you'd play A sharp diminished 7, creates a tension, and then resolves as we get to the 4 chord. You hear that tension. So my point in saying that and pointing that out is you can't just play these diminished scales all over the place. It doesn't work like that. They're meant to be played where that chord would go, and so they're meant really to be like a little transition lick. It's sort of cueing the sound or to your ear that we're about to go somewhere else. So when you hear it pulled you into the 4 chord. So that's kind of the theory bit behind it. Now here are the notes that are being played. And remember, we're playing the 1 sharp diminished 7th, meaning the 1 chord. So our A sharp diminished. So the way that I think about this is anywhere that I can find an A note. So there was one here, right? And actually it started with that note. I can go up 1. There's my sharp, so that's my A sharp. And from here, I can do this whole step, half step scale. So from here, I can go. Let me show you the pattern for this. And so what this scale is you go up a whole step, then a half step, whole step, half step. You just keep doing that infinitely. But that scale is the scale that goes with that diminished 7 chord. So there's my A sharp, and we're gonna go up like this. Watch this little pattern. And I'm just gonna show you the top 4 strings, but this is all you really need to know to be able to use this. So watch this, we go, from here we're gonna go up a whole step, and then we do a half step. So we have the starting note, whole, half. Now we're gonna go up to the third string. We're gonna put it in the same spot. So we're gonna be on this 8th fret again. And then we're gonna play that note. We're gonna do a half step now. Half with a whole. All right, and that's the pattern. So now we're gonna repeat that on strings 2 and 1. Watch this. And you can work that out on one string if you want to just hear the sound. But that's what we're doing. We're playing that diminished scale. So all I played of it, I started with the A note, slid up one because there's that little half step. And then from here, I walked it up like this. So that's really all that I played of the diminished scale. Then after that, I came up to the 2nd string, but I played this. Now that's a chromatic thing, so technically we're kind of out of the diminished scale thing. It still has an out-of-the-box sound because we're playing using the chromatic notes. But what I was thinking about when I came to this part, I was thinking minor pentatonic scale pattern 2 for the key of the song, which is A. So it's just 8, 9, 10, 9, 8 on that, all played on the 2nd string. And then watch this. You can hear already that we've gone to the 4 chord. You can hear the notes now of your D chord, right? So what I'm doing for that is still on the 2nd string, we're gonna go 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we're gonna slide from the 6th fret into the 7th fret, and then play 7th fret 3rd string. So now some of you are going, oh, hold on, what is all this? I can shine a big light bulb on what's going on here. Remember, we're going to the D chord, right? So there's your D triad. Here's your D chord using the A shape. It's starting to get more clear now, right? Here's your D chord using the G shape. Here is your D major pentatonic scale. Now it's starting to get even more clear. So when I played this, I'm just playing in the D major pentatonic scale, pattern 1, playing chromatically. I'm hitting each note. Instead of me just going like this, I'm playing each note along the way. That's all that is. So when you see it that way, it's like, oh, okay, there isn't anything that I didn't already know. Now after this, then I played this. I came down to the 4th string and played. And I love the sound of that. That's a sound that you're familiar with, and you already know this one too. Now this is our 2nd lick idea, and that's using a flat 7, that dominant 7 sound. It's so prominent in the blues, and once you can just start to get that sound, this, and know where those notes are in relation to your chords, you can just go to them all the time and work them into your lead. It really blueses things up. So what I'm doing for that is I'm thinking of this. Remember, we're playing over a D chord at this point, right? I'm thinking of my D chord here because this is the neighborhood that I'm in, where I just landed, which is my D chord using the G shape, right? There's kind of the bottom part of that. I always split it into 2. Now, if we're looking at sort of the bottom part, and I'm making that little triad there on the 7th fret. On that 4th string, I'm going to play 7, 9, 10. There's the flat 7. I can just hear it, right? I don't need to memorize it all. I can just hear it. And my finger knew to go up one to hit that note. That's the thing. You've got to get to that point where you hear that. You hear the sound before you're there. And you just know, oh yeah, it's just one away, right? I can just tell. It's like if I was singing it, my throat would know how to squeeze to get just that one extra little, your fingers will know that too. So once we get up to here, and then I bar and I hit strings 2 and 3 on that 7th fret in that triad. All right, so this next lick, however I did it, I'll put the tab up and be more specific about it. But what I played there was just D Mixolydian scale. Remember, Mixolydian scale is just your major scale, but with a flatted 7. And that's this lick idea that we're talking about now, is this flat 7 sound, right? So we just played the D7 there with that. And by coming up to this note, I'm hitting that same note again, that flat 7. And this lick, it has kind of a Peter Frampton lick. That's probably where I got this idea. I'm not sure. But it's got a sort of a Frampton-y kind of sound. But the notes that I'm playing came out of my D Mixolydian scale. And so I have memorized that scale off of this triad. This is how I think of it. We're in the G shape, right? We're playing the D chord, G shape. That's all you need to memorize for now. If you're not sure, just get that little bit of it. There's your flat 7. Or think of it this way, off of this triad, where this triad is, you've got, if you just add this note, you've got your A7 shape. Think your A7 in first position? Oh yeah, you're starting to connect it, right? So there's your A7, here's your D, D7. So now, when you play that lick, you'll understand where it's at. It's just coming out of the notes of that Mixolydian scale, which are connected to the chord shape. And then to get out of that D Mixolydian scale lick, the Peter Frampton thing, I went like this. And you can tell that from that flat 7 of my 4 chord, pay attention to this, this is a big one, we're gonna go from that flat 7 up 1 fret. That pulls you into the 1 chord. We're back to the A chord. Why? Because that note is the 3rd interval of my 1 chord, of my A. Right? And it was just 1 note away. And that's a big part of improvising, is wherever you're at, look for your nearest neighbor to where you want to go. If I know that we're about to go to the A and I'm playing a D here, I might as well just go right here, because it's right next door, right? I just need that 1 note, the 3rd interval. Now, after I hit that 3rd interval of my A chord, remember we're over the 1 chord now again, we're back over the A chord. I came down and went another little lick off of that A chord using the E shape. So it starts here on the 7th fret 1st string, but I'm doing a half bend. So I'm actually hitting this note, which is in my A minor pentatonic scale. But by releasing to this note, that note is not in my A minor pentatonic scale, but it is in my A major pentatonic scale. And this is the sweet spot. If you're interested in blending your major and minor pentatonic scale, there's no better place to do it than out of your E shape here, because you've got minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, which you already know and are familiar with, right? And then, and I'm talking about just on the top 3 strings even. But then you've got your major pentatonic scale, pattern 2, right, that runs right in between that. So you just have to kind of get your head around that. So minor pentatonic scale, major pentatonic scale, and they both share these notes together. So those 2 notes are in both. And so what that means then is I can look at this zone kind of like that, like a blend of major and minor. Now it happens all over the fretboard, but this was the first area that it really made sense to me to blend those 2. So after we hit the 3rd interval of the chord and play this lick, this is where we do the half bend from minor pentatonic scale into the major, and then watch this. That's 8, 7, 5 on the 2nd string, going from minor pentatonic into the major, back into, minor. And then we're gonna come down to 7th fret 3rd string. We're gonna come down to the 5th fret 3rd string. That's minor pentatonic scale, but then I do a hammer on to the 3rd interval of the chord, which is your 6th fret. So, and then I came down to this last A note down here on the 7th fret 4th string. But you can hear that blend, minor up to major. And that is a big signature sound of the blues, is going from minor to major. You hear that in that chord, right? So that's just the greatest little area, in my opinion, on the fretboard to really understand and be able to start using the minor pentatonic scale and the major together, is to take your pattern 1 of your minor pentatonic scale and then blend in your major pentatonic scale pattern 2. All right, so after that lick, then I went, just threw in that little chord thing there. Now that's going from the 6th chord to the 9 chord. And this is gonna be lick idea number 4. We'll just kind of throw this out here because I use this all the time. And what I'm doing for that is I'm playing my A6 chord and I go down 2 frets and using the same shape, and then I'm playing my A9 chord. And I'm connecting this in my head to my E shape. That's a great little filler. You can even arpeggiate the notes if you're wanting to work that into your lead that way, but I use that all the time when I'm playing a solo because it's just so accessible. So just connect this 6th chord to your E shape, and you can see that it sort of lives inside of it. In fact, your index finger is touching the 5th fret, which is the fret you bar when you make your A chord, like using the E shape. So that's your A6 chord. You can move that down 2 frets to get an A9. It's just a classy way to kind of throw in almost a little jazzy sound into your blues. The 6th chord to the 9 chord. All right, so now we're gonna go to our 5 chord, which is an E, or an E7. Remember, you can always represent your 5 chord as a 7, a dominant 7. It always works. It's a great little tension chord to get you back to the 1 chord. So what I played was, to start with, was this. Let's look at this. Now, I'm thinking about kind of 2 things here. I'm thinking about, I know we're playing over an E, so we were already in this area, remember? And so I was thinking about my E chord here using the top part of the A shape. So this is my E chord using the A shape. Here's the top part of that, top 3 strings. So if I look at just strings 2 and 1, these 2, that's where I started, was with that harmony. And hit that twice. I slid into it, string 2 and 1, and then watch this. I slid down, so I'm going to take from this 9th fret, 2nd string, we're going to go down the 7th fret, 5th fret, and then 7th fret, 3rd string. Hear that note? That's your flat 7, right? Like in your E7 chord. Just by hitting that one note, it colors the sound in like a dominant 7 kind of way. So we're back to that idea, is hitting that flat 7, and then I went. This will be the final of those 5 ideas. This is the harmonized 6, where you've got 2 notes that are 6 intervals apart. And so to play this, I started with my middle finger on the 5th fret, 4th string. We slide up to the 6th fret, and then I use my ring finger. You could use your pick if you want, to pluck the 5th fret, 2nd string, like that, to hit those 2 notes. So we have, there's the, that represents my E7 sound, and then this. Now let me show you where this note and then this are coming from. They're coming from the same thing. So remember, I started by visualizing the top part of my A shape, right? Well, when I came down here, I was just thinking about my E7 chord, like this, using the C7 shape. So think of your C chord in 1st position. If you were to play a C7, like that, you slide that up to here, you're playing an E7. And so if I look at when I played that little harmonized 6, that's just playing strings 4 and 2 out of this E7 chord here, using the C7 shape. And then when I did this note, the flat 7, that's in that chord, right? Same note. So I'm just you're just sort of looking at the chord in both situations, both instances. That E7 chord using the C7 shape was in there. But I'm calling this, at least this final lick idea, the harmonized 6, because I use this all the time, and it gives you like a nice way to play a lead while harmonizing. And remember, the 2 notes are 6 intervals apart. Be more on that in the 2nd video. But this at least introduces the idea of the harmonized 6. It's just such a useful thing. As long as you, and here's the big takeaway, is to just connect it to a chord shape. It makes it easy. That way you're not trying to think about, process in your mind, like, what are the 2 notes that harmonize? How do I go 6 intervals apart? You're just thinking of a chord. Oh yeah, it's my E7 chord using the C7 shape. I'm going to take those two notes and play that and get that harmonized sixth. And it sounds more like a lead if you sort of slide into a note. So I followed that up with this lick that goes. Okay, look, that's really just coming up to this little harmonized third here. And this would be in my E minor pentatonic scale pattern 4. So I switched to scales. I'm not in the key of the song. I'm playing the E minor pentatonic scale just to cover this part. I came up and hit strings 4 and 2 there. And then a quick slide back down to the 7th fret, 4th string. And then watch this, 5, 7th fret, 5th string. So I went from pattern 4 down into pattern 3. So it's, and then open 6th string, which is my open E note. And now I'm just thinking E chord, first position. If I were to play that chord but just hammer on my index finger on the 3rd fret, or I'm sorry, the 3rd string, 1st fret, and then the open 1 string. So all right, so we've already covered a lot of lick ideas in this first video. So come join us for part 2, where we'll go over the second half of the solo. It's the same chord structure, but we're going to take these same ideas and reuse a lot of them and just use them in different instances. The whole point of that is just to really hit home these ideas, the harmonized sixth and the 6 to the 9 chord. We'll cover those, blending your major and minor pentatonic scale as well. So if you've enjoyed this part 1 video and you've got something out of it, leave a comment, let me know. I always appreciate that. It's a huge help for me and then for other people that are watching this, because something that you say might resonate with somebody else, and that'll be helpful. And if you've got a question, leave your question. I do read all the comments and I try and respond to all of them. All right, we'll see you in part 2, where we'll go over the second half.